Okay, then I'll take this side. So our topic is digital transformation and cloud services. I would say it's a little broad in terms of defining what we're going to talk about. So my idea is to go through this huge topic step by step, and maybe start at the traditional networks, at the telco topics. So my first question would be to Hakan, because you're in talks with all those operator guys, and you're doing this consulting business about their strategies and their decisions in terms of infrastructure. Is this cloudification that everybody talks about actually taking place right now in this classical telco industry, or is it more of a hype?
I think the question is not if, the question is how. The networks are evolving, and cloudification is definitely one important topic on the agenda. We did recently a survey. We asked the industry where they are, and it came out that beginning of this year, 22% of the workloads in the core have been migrated, 22%. And expectation is, I think, in 2023 to have around 50% migrated. And the trend we see, for example, in the core architecture, that it is there's a trend with having this fully integrated vertically with the standard vendors like Nokia, Ericsson, Mavenir, and others. And the other trend is disaggregated, where then the collaboration is with companies like Red Hat, VMware, and others. Here, the trend is everything is becoming carrier grade. Now the maturity is happening. That's one of the wishes of the industry, that it's becoming stable. And we see also that the related HR activities, that people are getting familiar with cloud. Objectives, we see that operators are really saying here, manager A, Y, Z, please move 10% this year, next year 15%, because then you can make sure that everyone is taking off. That's definitely, I would say, it's happening. Okay,
sounds good. Nico, when we're looking at the promises that come along with this cloudification, the propagators of moving as much infrastructure into the cloud as possible, they promise better customer experience, greater added value. On what basis do they make such promises? Is this justified at all?
Definitely, and I only can fully agree what you have said. If we look to the near future, or let's look back. 5 years ago, if you ask MDAX companies, DAX companies, what is your cloudification, what is your cloud strategy? No one will really accept to say, we have a cloud strategy. If you ask today, what do you think about cloud? Everyone is coming up with a cloud-first strategy. If you ask the same question in the United States, in Silicon Valley, people will look at you like, okay, what's now the missing piece? Why we are talking about this?
Is the gravity?
and it's obvious, because let's say every company is great in what they are delivering and what they are doing, and you can be only great in your subject where you're an expert in. We in Europe, we are not the experts in building software. There are several companies, and I wish there were 100 more companies, but we are not the experts in building hyperscaler software, right? To address this global, let's say, problems like virtualization. It's a global problem. How you do this best? There was hundreds of thousands of engineers thinking about a decade how to do it, and finally it's there, and it's scaling in the cloud. So we need, as our CEO says every time, that the telco industry and Telefónica, for instance, we want to connect the cloud with the earth. This is our mission, to connect the cloud with the earth. There will be the cloud loads, the software as a service, the hyperscaler portfolio who is excellent, and you can't beat them in terms of scale, of updates, of involvement, evolution. But then you have to connect the real world. What is the machines? What is Even the B2C customers, right? With the mobiles, with all the iPhones, with all the apps. And this is where we kick in and try, I believe, if you try to isolate yourself, you're done. You need to be open to these and bring the best what you can to the table, and you have the right to play.
Mm-hmm. We'll come back to these aspects of what this actually means, that it's better done or it's done best in Silicon Valley. But first of all, maybe to also extend to the business model side of that, Edgar, which was part of your presentation before. To what extent is this cloudification a prerequisite for digital business models? How do they look like? Could you maybe give some examples from your scope of work?
Well, certainly, when you look forward, it is a prerequisite to truly enable the end-edge cloud services and use cases to explode. So in that respect, it is mandatory. There's a skill set issue in deploying this, in making it actually happen. I think your point there was, in America they have that skill set and we are still building that skill set. So it's about going confidently out to the edge, knowing that you've got the people, the skills, the processes in place to keep it secure, to launch all the various elements that you need. It's a complex issue, and as a previous mobile network operator CTO, we don't jump into things very quickly. Step by step, let's make sure that it works. First question is, which customer has this already? Because I want to see it working. So yes, it's a prerequisite, but I think it's going to take some time to get there.
Okay. So Lars, as we heard before, Open RAN is one of the very hands-on approaches of making this happen. However, traditional telcos seem still a little cautious to adapt this change. Is this observation correct? And what's your view on that?
So obviously there are already live networks available with Open RAN on the operator side as well. I think the Open RAN initiative and the concept actually brings a lot to the table. And it's not only that on a greenfield approach, like in the small scale for enterprise businesses or in big scale for new operators, for new entrants in the market, it's a very valuable option. But we also see in our consultancy work we do with operators that Open RAN is also something they take very seriously, and we look into brownfield approaches where you have good and easy ways to extend your already established network, and I think that what Open RAN offers here is very, very interesting for all the operators. And it might be a bit slower than expected in the beginning, where everybody said, okay, we'll replace everything with ORAN next year. Usually that doesn't happen.
For reasons, yeah.
But the general trend definitely is there, and it's going to the right direction.
If I could throw in another comment
Totally,
there perhaps. I guess the industry is lucky that we have a Rakuten who has done the heavy lifting. Imagine if we had to try to do an ORAN ourselves here in Europe, it wouldn't have happened. We are lucky that another supplier, and that there comes that story about is there really vendor lock-in or not, when somebody has gone to the effort to do shift the CapEx from Nokia Ericsson ZTE, use that CapEx to develop from the ground up the ORAN solution. Is there really cost saving there? But now they need to monetize that and keep pushing that forward. So somebody else has done the heavy lifting. Now we can take that and build upon it, I think. Yeah. So we've had it a little bit easier perhaps than a ground, a true greenfield ORAN deployment
from an industry perspective.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, totally. So we heard in this last 2 days that saving costs on a whole is one of the crucial strategic goals, and obviously, everybody who has anything to sell will put that label on their solution. We will help you to be more energy efficient. I've seen that on cloud solutions, on software-defined networking a lot as well. Is it true? Is this more than an advertising approach? I would actually love to ask that everybody here on the panel, so maybe Nico, you would like to start?
Yes, absolutely. It's not my expertise area, but what I have seen in Telefónica, it's extremely serious to our CEO, to Markus Haas. ESG confirmed targets are top priority for the board. I think we have a plan next year to be at 80% on green electricity. It was, of course, a stretch, the whole electricity topic the last year during all these challenges. But still, these plans are with top priority driven by the board. We are also, for the business solution side, we're working with some suppliers together, even with SAP or SAS, for instance, who they have sustainability solutions, because you can generate a lot of savings. If you go to a large retailer and put this ESG targets in a smart way together, but you have also to measure this, you need analytics to do this, they can save 30% of energy. And this is something everyone is interested in. So there's a huge potential in bringing down the more need what we have for electricity in a smart way and still be capable to do whatever you want to deliver on.
How can I see you want something? To add on that?
I was just acknowledging. No, no. For sure, looking practically into the field, what we are doing is we're looking into if it's really happening. And what we see that operators are looking to bring the total consumption down, which is, I think, something we all agree should make sense. We see various initiatives at the moment to sunset technology, like happened last year in Germany with 3G. I think this was definitely an activity is paying off to bring the consumption down. When it comes to building new technology, if it's more efficient, like 5G or fiber or here Open RAN, which will, I think, most probably take off in 2025 with a mass rollout. Here, I think we have still a bit time to make the system more efficient. At the moment, when you bring an Open RAN system, I think in the beginning would be maybe equal efficient. And then when you work with the system, with the learnings and developings, or maybe after 1 year, then it is more efficient. I think it's just a matter of timing. I would like to maybe finger point to one initiative with NGMN. There's an initiative ongoing together with the NGMN to define exactly the framework that someone like a CTO can say the total power consumption is going down. The new systems I'm building is more efficient than the ones being before. And I then can take care also even having more vendors contributing on that is an initiative we are doing at the moment with the NGMN, defining the KPI framework. It is launched, and I think more and more operators are looking into that. And it's just a matter of timing.
And SDN and those technologies
will contribute. They will contribute. I can only ask then, when you build new infrastructure, make sure that the old infrastructure is really off, because then it's definitely not consuming any more power.
So maybe let's talk edge cloud for a moment, which was also an important part of your solution. We journalists always go through a learning curve in these technologies as well. When I first wrote about 5G, my understanding of edge cloud was that we have a little data center at every cell site. And then the first solutions actually hit the market, and they said, hey, we have 4 data centers spread out over Germany. Isn't that great? So what's your stance on that? I mean, obviously you have the solution to put it to every cell site, but is this cloudification on this edge side view already built in those strategies, or does it come with the necessities of the applications?
Yeah, I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. I mean, having 1 or 2 centralized mega data centers or a hyperscaler data center, that's not very efficient. However, adding equipment to every single cell site, whether it's our product or just, on every site, that's also probably not required. So I think the answer is somewhere in the middle, depending on some of the final use case applications that are going into that or running through that edge data center. Is it time critical? Is it truly latency critical, perhaps by keeping it locally at in this cluster, so not network-wide, but in this cluster, if I can keep that data local, I could actually save on backhaul, on bandwidth. So I don't have to go back to either a localized mid-size edge data center or even back to a core over there in Berlin. Yeah? So it could be that just by creating a cluster, private 5G, for example, you can be saving power or energy or resources, backhaul capacity in other areas. So I don't think there is a single black and white answer that, yes, every single cell site has to have this, or it has to have a HP server or a Dell server or whatever the bare metal may be. I don't think that's the answer either, depending on how, it may be over time. Maybe this is a 10-year plan that everything should go off legacy, but somebody has to prove that power saving. Energy is a huge issue, and as humans, we need to be absolutely laser focused. We're a consumer. Our industry is a huge consumer. Somebody said earlier today or yesterday, 70 or 80% of the energy is in the RAN, is in the edge network away from the core.
Energy used by the telco industry,
right?
Yeah, okay,
or wireless industry even.
Okay.
I guess my focus is more wireless industry, but that's a huge number. Imagine if we can just knock that off by 10% or 15% by the use of something, whether it's 2G shutdown or the latest. But if you take some legacy away that was consuming power, and you still need to replace it with something which is a power consumer, okay, hopefully there will be a delta there, a saving delta. But somebody needs to do that analysis to make sure it's...
I had this ugly word rebound effect coming up in the back of my head. We're talking about saving energy, and then we're thinking about putting data centers almost everywhere. Is this the solution? Or
no. Or perhaps the server that you buy doesn't quite handle the baseband processing. We've already heard that with some of the ORAN. I don't know if you can comment on that. They say, well, this is good, but in actual fact, the processing power that you have off the shelf isn't keeping up with the demands of the way the radio networks operate today. Oh, good, then I'll put 2 servers. Oops, now I've blown my energy budget. So, yeah.
Sounds tricky, okay, but we have people working on that.
Right.
Okay. Lars, looking back to ORAN, but also to multi-access edge computing, one other aspect of this early solutions was that there is a discussion, will these kinds of cloud businesses be dominated by the telcos or more by the traditional cloud providers or platforms? I understand that you have a solution of your own that you've presented earlier on, but what is your view on that? Is maybe cooperation is the ultimate answer to that?
I think this the market will tell, right? I mean,
sure.
Obviously, there's interest from a lot of sides into getting to this space. If you're talking about private 5G solutions, obviously it's a completely different story towards the public environment. I think that, and also going back to the energy saving ideas, that cooperation will be needed to have here the best results. Just also to slightly mention that as well, in my presentation I talked about the Zero Swarm project we are doing at the moment, and one of the key aspects here is to find out how to best reduce power consumption of the network in manufacturing environments, because that will be very, very critical for us. And it's a catch-22. I mean, we want to have higher compute power. We want to have real-time, and not only in the industry space, but also in the consumer space. And for that, having compute power very close to where the action happens is key. That will definitely be a strong driver for new services and for new ideas and for new consumer products as well. We just have to always balance a bit and make sure that the right functions are put close to where the action is, where the functions which are not time critical or not are not so important to have very close to the action can then be further down the line in more centralized computing environments, which also are doing a lot to be more
energy efficient, of course. Yeah,
energy
sure.
efficient, yes.
Yeah. Now, if we would have had this panel a year ago, I'm pretty sure that we wouldn't have survived the first 20 minutes without touching the aspect of the metaverse. And today, one of my takeaways is that we don't talk about it that much. Okay, I've seen it occasionally come up in the presentations, but it's more like an and also aspect than really at the center of the business. Okay, this may be part of the explanation is what Gerhard Fettweis told us earlier on, that we are with 5G more on a B2B centered aspect of this business, and it will all change with 6G. But is the consumer part of this application world a driver as well, or can we forget about it at the moment, or what? Hakan, what do you think?
I think everyone is continuing building the networks to be metaverse ready. I think this is something as a prerequisite, and the prerequisite also for metaverse is when we look to the cloudification journey. When you want to have a hologram in the car, you need maybe even the cloud in the car.
Do you want to have that, really?
No. But when we look to this picture, we need the infrastructure. I think that's the prerequisite, that the cloudification, when this is mature in 2027, and then automatically then on top of the cloud, the applications are coming, which is then also then enabling to work with metaverse, and then the industry is contributing to that. At the moment, there might be maybe one or two unpopular industries being interested in metaverse, which is maybe not the best marketing vehicle for the industry, for comms and media. Therefore, I think it will become more and more mature when the infrastructure is ready. And infrastructure is the network and is the cloud. And then this is enabling services on the metaverse. Schooling is maybe the simple one, but also much more like the hologram in the car.
Now, Nico, if I understood correctly what you answered earlier on, that I'm a little mean and I'm a little exaggerating the answer to the question of where this business will take place was live with it. It's going to be the Silicon Valley solutions, the platforms, because they do know how to implement that. On the other hand, we've heard a lot today from Gerhard and other presenters about the GDPR and its aspects and the ongoing discussion about this storage of legally protected customer data outside of European borders, particularly in the US. What's your view on the impact of that controversy for European businesses? Is it a showstopper? Is it a thing that we just have to live with? Is it a thing that the customers just have to accept and learn, as Gerhard said, accept?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. And thanks for the question. So I believe really we have to be very pragmatic in our approaches. It's also to the question of the edge side. Let's say use this, what is bringing you closer to your goal. The goal is to deliver a software component who is working. If you need to operate bare metal on top, and if you have a lot of stress putting everything together, and you can take it out of the cloud as a cloud extension, what we have also showcased in Hannover Messe with AWS, in context of private 5G, it's a simple way to just do it. And then you can involve from there, especially in private 5G use case where you talk about a single campus. I think the same question is about, for sure we should not accept everything was coming from the States, for sure. GDPR is one of our highest goods within Europe, and it's good that way. But I think that we will see a lot of involvement and natural speed up, because they will bring up also solutions now addressing a lot of GDPR issues, what they just didn't care 5 years ago, because they just tried to do a solution for the world, let's say, and publish this worldwide. On the other hand, I'm pretty happy that everything is not solved and we would have less to do. If you see on the government side, there is a huge potential on edge computing, on sovereignty, cloud, infrastructure, what keep us independent and will help us. And I believe to find the right way to see what, because not everything is critical. What can I put on some hyperscaler loads? What I can put on my telco provider loads? What I'm doing maybe still privately myself, because I really can't afford that anyone is stealing this data and I'm done. This is very, very important to keep a governance over this and do the right things. And this is where the management is asked for to take the right decisions and not just give it from their hands and say, this was the bad guys, I don't know, yeah? And I think moving down the road, security will be a huge differentiator. Because not every company have the ability to employ 50 or 100 people to do security. And there is so much threats out there where you need to secure your network, where you need to secure your applications and your endpoints, that you will need a collaboration of big players who putting this efforts together, even to support the hyperscalers, because hyperscalers will get much better into the security topics where smaller companies will struggle a lot. And we have to be very pragmatic to take what we need in order to deliver the right solution. And solutions are changing, evolving over time.
Any other thoughts on that?
Force the hyperscalers to put their hyperscale in the country where the sovereign data has to remain. Don't take the easy approach and just ship it to where it's easy for me to offer you a service in whichever country which you potentially don't know. So I think it's a tremendous thing that the sovereign data that is created remains in the ownership of the country, or even better, the people, which again, Professor Weisswange mentioned. That has to remain here. They're still trying with Gaia X.
I was about to ask about that. Yeah,
long time ago, back in the GPRS days, there was the GRX, was the beginning of let's create a private network of secure network of, I think it was signaling or early IP connectivity for GPRS roaming back then. It's like, ooh, yeah. So we understand that we have to do this. We understand it's got to be safe and secure, and if it was a private network, perfect. Yeah, but that's not very efficient and not very cost effective. And you know, suddenly the private networks and public networks somewhere in some router somewhere come together. That begins the issue. But the concept of the data remaining in a country and make the big boys set it up in that country, good.
So my general understanding of everybody answering here is that live with the realities and try to adapt them to our needs, but something like Gaia X is probably not the path that will bring us a solution.
I'm not sure. I'm not the Gaia X expert.
I'm quite sure nobody here on the panel is, but yeah.
I'm not sure if it's alive or dead or still alive or still going, or the development is in that direction.
But I have also not followed this so closely. But I think there is a really good use case around Gaia X. And I think also some hyperscaler are even part in Gaia X. And for the governments, it's the way to go with a much more stronger security and sovereignty cloud approaches as to just go on public with hyperscalers. I think it's not the way to go. And I think the German government will put a lot of effort into this to take there a good path and the right decisions. And there is not 5 solution fits all. We have so many industries, especially in the country, so many verticals, hospitality, critical infrastructure, where you will need several really different approaches in order to be very efficient operating moving forward, and also to bring your legacy. I mean, 80% of all the spends in IT is going just to remain legacy up and running and keep the lights on. And this is wrong, basically. It is the past, it's okay, but you need to focus on the future and to see what you can build with much less effort and also with less operational costs in order to serve the new topics. Everyone wants to get to the new topics, not stay in the past.
Yeah, this was
legacy more secure than open.
But this is not the way we say, bring the host back, because the host systems were so beautiful.
that's a good.
They are secure, yes, they are. They're reliable, yes, they are.
And the bigger audience here is also coming from the operators or companies working for the operators. I think when we look to metaverse, the operators are working already on simplifying, on making them ready with the networks, with the infrastructure. And one topic which could be key from the philosophy is when you think about AI, automation, just when you think about that, you're coming automatically to efficiency, to quality, digital, again, cloudification. And then talking about metaverse and the applications are becoming obvious. Means and one of the questions, who will survive for sure, the position from the operator is a strong one. I'm personally expecting that will remain strong. Maybe a consolidation will happen, but when the operators are working on the automation, on the AI, on the bringing the infrastructure up, they are ready for the applications on top of it.
Mm-hmm. So thanks for mentioning the audience, because my idea was to open up the last 10 to 15 minutes for questions from you guys. And I could imagine with this exquisite panel here, there may be one or the other aspect that you would like to that you would like to see touched upon, or for the moment, everybody seems happy with the answers we already gave.
Rooftop barbecue is waiting.
Yeah. So maybe, yeah, we have a hand up. Thank you very much for that.
Yes, hello, thank you very much for the discussion. As a representative of a very fast-growing software company from Europe, I was wondering, what do you think can be done in Europe to have tech leaders or hyperscalers out of Europe?
Maybe I can give a very first answer. I believe the way to go is to use what is existing in order to build on top the services and the value. Because, to be honest, to provide infrastructure as a service, to provide compute, to provide storage, to provide basic services, you would say in the digital world, just to survive is butter and bread. Why should you go that way? It's much interesting to say I'm a security expert and I'm focused now on the 5 use cases where there's a huge potential out there in the airspace, in the hospitality and the healthcare industry, etc., and bring this kind of services. It's a little bit the same like ChatGPT. ChatGPT comes out and everyone was a little bit afraid, will this take now our jobs away and everything. And I read a very interesting article on LinkedIn where they say the first time the calculator comes out, all the schools in New York go to the streets around 80 years ago and was demonstrating, take the calculator away, because they was fearing about their jobs. With ChatGPT, you get just a powerful engine to do things differently. But you can use now this content to predict the future and not surfing 80% of your time historically to pull anything together in order to have a first picture. And I think the same is with Europe becomes, on the software side, I think now really into the game, because you have different, you don't need 12 months to deliver an IT project. There is low-code, no-code mechanism, there is 4GL programming language where you use all this content. No one is going back to assembler or to C++ in order to develop a framework. And this is the big advantage for startups, to use what is there as a concept and build on top metaverse use cases, digitalization use cases, 5G applications, and bring value.
It could be that a big part of that code is completely reusable time and time again. So why would you spend the effort to recreate it? Let ChatGPT do your heavy lifting, and then you can do your customization and on top of that for the specific application. And that, I think that's to your point, it makes it more efficient. We have what our use case and what our vision of this is, of the application. In order to get there quicker, let's have somebody in minutes create the core, upon which we'll then take it forward and deliver the service to the end user, end customer, and enterprise.
Absolutely. On the customer experience side, you can add so much value in customer experience, from online journeys, from different ways where maybe you can go there and say, we built a private network for you. It's completely on your side. You have a complete control. Let's put JetGTP capabilities to inject your information, DIA, Bosch, Siemens, whoever. And then we can make context of your data. Does this help you? We can answer 90% of all your questions. I don't know any company who's doing this today. And you can start small with small services and develop towards this. I think this is the big chance.
Good point, a very optimistic view. Any other comments, any other questions? Okay, I see the rooftop barbecue in one or two faces here. Maybe as a final round, because we're just dwelling on this optimism, what I liked to hear very much from Gerhard's presentation was this: we in Europe have 6 out of 8 building blocks that will be helping to build a sustainable and economically sustainable future for us. If you break that down to our topic, to business approaches, B2B solutions, cloud-based, and so, what can Europe bring to the table? Or if this is too broad, what can your company bring to the table in order to secure this? Maybe just start here and go through the panel.
Firstly, it was very interesting to see his optimism, and I think that we should all take this back, because it really triggered already some ideas, and I think he's absolutely right with saying that the stuff we will automate going forward is something where European companies have been very strong at in the past historically, and if that goes now into the consumer space, you have a very high leverage, and I think that we, being a company who is doing a lot of consultancy, obviously, we want to take this positive impulses and share that with our customers. And I think that's the main thing we can do, besides of helping them to build their best network for their purpose.
Okay.
I would like to say thank you to COVID.
Yeah. Okay.
COVID has opened our eyes at how sensitive the supply chain is. How reliant we are on things that are not coming from our own countries. This is a general position. It's not, German specific. It's international, and we now have realized that we need to become a little bit more, let's call it, internal focused and less reliant on this global supply chain, and a bit more locally reliant on our own internal supply chain. So thank you for COVID for opening opening our eyes. Okay, I'm sorry, but
there are other aspects.
It's a different way of looking. It's a different way of looking at it.
Yeah, totally understand your point. And
some positive out of it.
And it also was praised as a big digitization enhancer,
Absolutely.
of course.
Yeah,
sure.
sure.
So, what can we look positively into the future? Yeah.
I believe our biggest asset is who we are and what we have in the country. In the industry, what we have in Europe, it's not compatible with everything else around the world. And Europe is very strong if you combine Europe and Germany and everyone together. And this kind of assets will not disappear in 5, 10, 50 or 100 years. So let's take what we have grounded. And I mean, we are lucky as Telefónica in terms of let's build this connectivity to transfer this data as good as we can, as structured as the customer wants this, build overlapping networks within Europe to have global customers. We have some RFPs around 100 locations of private 5G around the globe. These are huge opportunities how Industry 4.0 will now starting shaping themselves in order to operate in 1 year from today or 2 years from today. And then let's work very smart with startups together. What is the application to put on top? Because we will not be the application experts. And do automation easily. We're thinking about launching low-code, no-code frameworks and doing this kind of automation easily to allow this interaction and interoperability of the systems in order to change processes fast. Give this to the people at companies and they can scale.
Great. Hakan, as a genuine knower of the telco industry all over the world, you have the chance to wrap it all up.
I think what we can bring in as Europe here is the experience. All what we discussed, because of the cost pressure we have in Europe, and also the tariff plans are so low, and everything will happen here first. And therefore, when we talk about automation, it's ongoing, because it's they're even predicting headcount cuts, and they're doing it to then have the efficiency afterwards because of the cost pressure. All the energy prices are exploding. All what we're discussing around the globe is happening in Europe first. Therefore, I think the experience the operators are making, also the small ones, because it's fragmented in Europe, is very, very valuable for the people outside of Europe.
Excellent, thank you very much. So this was our attempt to fill those big words, digitization and cloud, with a little more concrete input and aspects. Thank you very much on the panel here, all my panel guests. And now we do another seamless handover between Dirk and me. Maybe. Thanks a lot.